timeless warning every sailor knows, it is not the sea without, but the water within that endangers the ship. We must beware. The welcoming spirit of the Republican Party has brought aboard individuals whose commitment to the Constitution is shallow and whose allegiance to the planks of our party platform is selective. And by the way, a huge shout out to the platform committee for this year's Utah County platform. In my judgment, this is excellent work. Thank you. It's timely, principled, clear, and obviously grounded on constitutional principles. It has been said that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. So, vigilant we will be. We will be the people who, on our watch, safeguard our party, our principles, and the Constitution that anchors them. My candidacy is dedicated to this legacy, to preserving the integrity of our party and the strength of the Republic. My father lived a century in service to faith, family, and country. His flag will fly from Old Ironsides on our nation's 250th birthday. A reminder that every generation must do its part. Now it's our turn. So let me close with this. A huzzah for Old Ironsides, a huzzah for the U.S. Constitution, and a huzzah for the Republican Party, steadfast in its call for limited government, ordered liberty, and the strength of a free people. May we be the people, and may God bless and prosper us in this election cycle. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I want to give a shout out really quick. Everybody knows Eagle Forum. They have been around as long as I can remember. But Gail Rosica, if you don't mind standing up, this woman embodies Be the People. Thank you, guys. That is so well-deserved. Gail's a dear friend of mine. We met when I stumbled into her caucus meeting and had no idea who she was, and I ran against her for, I had no idea, but I took it to a head-to-head, and after when I found out, I went, oh my goodness. So Gail, to me, is the queen. I introduce her everywhere I go. I had the absolute privilege of driving her around. She unfortunately slipped and broke her arm when she was in Washington, D.C., and her tragedy became my benefit. I got to drive her on multiple occasions to different events, and I picked her brain, and I have said to her since then, will you please come, and I have a podcast stuff set up in my office, and she has said that she will. I learned so much from her, fun stuff where I told her something that happened at the Capitol, and she goes, oh, Christy, you fell for that? That's one of the oldest tricks in the book. But she is a dear friend and well-deserved of any standing ovation in any room. Gail, your tireless efforts for freedom, I don't know if anybody else has put in the time and the energy that you have, and you continue to do it. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, I'm really excited about this, is coming on behalf of his father, because he got stuck in DC. But John Kennedy came to Alpine City Hall when the Prop 4 initiative was going on. And me and my husband walked out and we said the best speaker tonight was John Kennedy. And so no pressure. He's so fantastic. I spoke at BYU about a month ago, and I spoke with the Democrat chair, and we talked about caucus, and after, here pops this friendly face in, and I'm like, John, Christy, and I was just so glad to see him, and he has gotten this group around him, like I pointed out, of these young Republicans that understand what's at stake and are willing to put in the work and know what the values are that we hold, and they hold them as well. So please welcome John Kennedy.
Good evening, everyone. Very excited to be here with you. As Christy said, I'm not Mike Kennedy, so sorry to disappoint. I'm his son, John. As Christy said, he's stuck in Washington, D.C., trying to get the Department of Homeland Security funded, and so he's unable to be here tonight. But when I asked my dad what he would want me to say for him, he said he's very sorry to be absent. He's lived in Utah County for over 30 years now, and he loves being with you people, but that he is staying in his post to do the work that he was elected to do by you good people. Right now, he's doing everything he can to work with his colleagues to fund Border Patrol and immigration enforcement officers because he believes that our border should be secure and that criminals should be subject to the full force of the law. I was thinking about what I wanted to say about my dad, and at first I was tempted to list off some of the bills that he sponsored in the 14 months that he's been in office. But instead of doing that, I'm going to talk about how his work has impacted me personally, how it's impacted our great county, how it's impacted the people in his district, and how it's impacted the great country of the United States of America. First, my dad worked with President Trump and with Republicans to keep the American dream affordable for my generation. Together, they passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, which permanently codified higher standard deductions for every class of tax filer, eliminated taxes on up to $25,000 of tips and overtime, and promotes economic growth by encouraging businesses to spend and invest. I get a little excited about that because I'm an accounting major. Additionally, I'm very proud of the way that my dad hasn't shied away from making tough votes. He's been willing to stand up in the face of wasteful spending. He has opposed bureaucracy, and he's willing to sacrifice political expediency in order to stand by his principles and the principles of the people that he represents. One of the greatest lessons that I learned from my parents, and my dad especially growing up, was that who you are as a person should be consistent. Your behavior should not change based on the people you are with. You should be the same person at work as you are at home or at church or anywhere else you go. By being willing to make tough votes and take the heat for it, I've seen my dad continuing to live by that principle. Lastly, I'm proud of the way that my dad conducts himself with his colleagues and with his constituents. I've been campaigning alongside my dad for about 14 years now, and during that time, I've never heard him negatively campaign against a single opponent. Even with people that he disagrees, he's always willing to have a conversation. Additionally, my dad is a strong supporter of the caucus convention system. He has never collected signatures to get on a ballot. I have been in the car with him, traveling across our great state to campaign events, and in each spare moment that he has, he spends his time personally calling every single delegate in his district, working to earn their support. He does everything that he can to reach out to his constituents and represent them well. Frankly, the only complaint that I have with my dad is that between medical school, law school, and now serving in Congress, he hasn't left me with a lot of career options that he hasn't already done. But with that being said, I hope that he can continue to earn your vote and your support. God bless the great state of Utah, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Just really quickly, if I could have the UC3, Utah Coalition of Cities and Counties, and Americans for Prosperity stand up. Thank you very much for proving that not all NGOs are bad. The next speaker is one of my favorite people in the whole world. He is fantastic. If you know him, he is an absolute advocate for conservative values. He has a knack for finding good people to run for office. And I have had the great honor of getting to know him in the last couple of years. Please welcome Walter J. Plum III.
I'm going to be super brief tonight. Utah has the largest per capita youth population in the nation, and I, along with you, believe that every kid should graduate from high school free from the handicap of an addiction. And that's Drug Safe Utah. This year has been the best year for the Utah legislature. We have the greatest legislators in anywhere in the country right here in our state. And they came through with 6 bills, Gail, 7 bills, all for youth protection this year. One example, a drug you probably never even heard about, Kratom, which is sold in gas stations everywhere and convenience stores, will no longer be sold there. And the businesses that produce those, 2 of them with over $100 million in sales, are going to be out of business. And a lot of thanks to Brady Brammer down here and a lot of other legislators, both Democrat and Republican, that participated in this. And just a couple other things, and I want to give thanks to Rob Axon and his wife, Erin, for helping so much in this effort. Rob's the chairman, as you know, of the Utah Republican Party. Can we have a hand of appreciation for them? Piper Hill Consulting, along with the Utah Medical Association, that's all the docs, Utah Cancer Society, Utah Heart Association, and above all, the Eagle Forum, again, Gail Rizika. And I have an advertisement for them. If you haven't signed up for the Eagle Forum, it's eagleforumutah.org. And they can sign up, right, Gail? Tonight we've got a great audience for that. And a couple small advertisements. Today I have with me at my table my son-in-law, who took on the hardest project in Utah County, the cleanup of the Geneva site. No more smoke, all houses. Sell your house and move to Utah City. Secondly, I want to thank David Kyle, who's here with us. I lined David Kyle up with his wife about 6 months ago, 4.5 months ago. They were married. I knew both his wife and his sister in Iraq when I was serving an LDS mission there, and that left one sister unmarried. And she has to marry a Republican, hopefully wealthy. Gala, can you stand up just a second? Just a second. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Walter J. Plum III. Fantastic. One more group that I'd like to stand up, Moms for America, if you are here, please stand up. Thank you very much for the work that you do. Thank you for protecting our children and for giving moms a place. Appreciate you guys very much. Okay, if Luke Truitt could come up. I think he is here. Oh, wonderful. Luke, fantastic. Luke is going to read our introduction for our guest speakers that we have here. And then I just wanted to show you, if you guys have not seen Kimberly L's book, The Invincible Family, it's an incredible book. She's done great work. Please get it. It's called Why the Global Campaign to Crush Motherhood and Fatherhood Can't Win. And almost lost my pen there. And this is a wonderful book. She put a lot of time and energy in this, and she'll tell you a little bit about what that's about. So Luke, if you wouldn't mind doing the introduction.
Kimberly Els is the author of The Invisible Family, Why the Global Campaign to Crush Motherhood and Fatherhood Can't Win. Kimberly has written for The Federalist, The Daily Wire, The Daily Signal, Town Hall, The Epoch Times, The Salt Lake Tribune, and other outlets. Kimberly has been featured on numerous programs, including Tucker Carlson Today, Common Sense with Dr. Ben Carson, the Era MedAxtro, and Moms for America. She has spoken at the United Nations and at venues across the country. Kimberly graduated from Brigham Young with a degree in English. She is married and is the mother of 5 children. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with you tonight. I had a son in my old age, and it's one of the best things I ever did. He's 9 years old now, and he's the joy of our life. Another thing that's been important in my life is I started working with an NGO at the United Nations over 10 years ago. That's been another key effort in my life. I speak tonight from a perspective of valuing the unique contributions of men and women, especially in the family. I also speak from a belief that motherhood undergirds and regulates the political structure of the world, but that's not the point that I'm here to make tonight. I've been given the job of making one point and making it in 6 minutes, and so don't worry, Jason and Tina, I'm gonna leave you your time. The best way that I can make this point, I believe, is with 3 quick stories, and then I'll just quickly wrap it up. The first time I went to the United Nations was 2014. I found myself in a room in an event called Step It. They were launching a big initiative called Step It Up for Gender Equality. And this event was hosted by UN Women and some other countries of the world and other groups. So I found myself in a room full of producers, advertisers, media people, the head of a women's magazine, and other people involved in film, radio, and other media. And the goal that was unfolded during the event was that they wanted to form a media compact, a global compact cementing agreement on how women will be presented on screen and in the media. Specifically, they wanted more women in media jobs, more women represented in certain roles. And that might all be fine and good, but what started to concern me was that they started to talk about what kinds of roles women should be presented in. They specifically talked about how women should not be shown in commercials or other media in caretaking roles. That bothered me, because I think caretaking is one of the most important works in the world. Not only did they want that, but they wanted men to be shown in care roles. I have no problem with that, but I do have a problem with women being left out. They wanted more women in commander-in-chief type of roles and positions. Now, all this may be debatable. This may be a bad or good thing, but that's not even my point. So, and another benefit of being part of this global compact was they would write content for you. If you signed up, they will write content for you to put out on your platforms. And so then I watched, and I've watched for the past 12 years. If you think about it, when's the last time you saw a woman presented in a commercial feeding her children? It might have been a while. I'm not saying there aren't any, but there's very few. When's the last time you saw a female general? Both are noble pursuits. Why is one being deplatformed and the other promoted? This is my question. No laws were passed about this per se, but a compact was made at the global level, money was put behind it, and social pressure was applied, which was a top-down approach that sent ripples through society. And we have been watching that unfold in real time. Most people weren't at that launch meeting, though. I was. And so it's been fascinating for me to see how it's rolled out. Story number 2. A major focus of the United Nations for many decades, at least for the Economic and Social Council, has been comprehensive sexuality education. You may be familiar with this fight globally and locally. This is a type of graphic sex education that often focuses on the sexual rights of children. So in 2016, a survey pops up in Utah that was reported on our local media about a survey asking parents if they want comprehensive sexuality education for their children or just plain old abstinence-based. And no context was given for this, just as this survey was taken. Well, it turns out 64% of us want a comprehensive sexuality education for our children, and only 25% want the kind that our state currently demands by law, which is abstinence-based. Then, some of you may recall, Representative Brian King sponsored a bill pushing CSE in Utah. He's one of many. There have been many efforts to do this over the years. It was eventually, that time it was defeated because we knew what it was and where it was coming from. It was a top-down deconstruction of basic sexual morality, which is linked closely to religion and culture, right? So I want you to see the timeline. The concept of comprehensive sexuality education was forming in the 1970s. It was globally formalized at the UN in 1994. It became standard language and operating procedure in the 2000s, especially after the UNESCO put out a really horrific document in 2009, which had to be recalled and changed because so many people were alarmed by it. And the two major pushers of comprehensive sexuality education around the world are, surprise, UNESCO and UNFPA, two major UN agencies. And then we see comprehensive sexuality education come to Utah. That's not an accident, it's on purpose. And this happens again and again. My last story. In 2023, the Biden administration launched the US strategy on global women's economic security. You may or may not have heard about this. Here's 3 quick highlights. Quotes from it. The strategy lays out an ambitious agenda to advance women's economic security globally by reducing wage gaps, improving care infrastructure, and dismantling legal, social, and cultural barriers to women's economic participation. Some of that may be good. It says this strategy aligns with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Some of us may have concerns about that. Next, quote, the US government has partnered with the World Bank and is leading diplomatic engagements to encourage partnerships in the recently launched Global Invest in Childcare initiative, which will expand access to quality childcare globally. The World Bank Group is working with countries to develop a pipeline of investments in quality childcare that will transform the opportunities available to children, women, and families. Okay, so this is a global thing which our administration at the time openly said, we're partnering with the World Bank, a UN entity, on pushing childcare throughout the world. And this is, of course, always presented in terms of empowering women. So imagine my interest when I saw a program roll out in Utah under Governor Cox pushing these very same things that same year, called Inspire in Utah. This campaign was complete with billboards and a website bursting with heartwarming stories. Now, everything that was contained in this initiative was not necessarily bad, but can you see where it came from? It's really quite clear. Did Governor Cox think that up by himself? I don't know for sure. But the fact is, there exists a network of experts, institutions, and funders who share assumptions, frameworks, and core beliefs. These ideas originate in and circulate through World Bank research, OECD reports, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and their accompanying documents and literature. These ideas are then integrated into state-level policy, like Utah. It goes like this. The UN is an agenda setter. The World Bank is concerned with financing and execution. Governments climb on board with nice branding, provided for them often, that makes Utah look good. All right, so wrapping these things together, does it make sense? Or is it even reasonable to think that global entities with big plans and big budgets haven't thought about how they're going to get the water to the end of the row? That they don't have plans to implement on the local level? It may be naive to think so. Does this mean, though, that everything that comes to the surface in Utah that vaguely resembles UN language or policy is being spoon-fed to us by UN globalists? No. Does it mean that George Soros is lurking behind every corner in Utah? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that global entities who do want to influence local policy and programs might have plans to do so. And they might be careful not to advertise which corners they're actually lurking behind, because no one likes to think of themselves as a puppet for some global regime. And then, of course, the most recent example of the global to local pipeline is what came to light just really this week about the ties between the so-called Mormon Women for Ethical Government and a whole litany of global forces and funders exposed by Data Republican and then pushed by Mike Lee. What I want you to see and consider, thank you. What I want you to see and consider is alignment, global to local. When we see alignment in ideology, language, or purpose, we should consider sources. And when we dig, we often find connections. But even if we don't find direct funding links or obvious partnerships, we should consider that there could be connections, even if they're well concealed, unforced, or unseen. If local policy is aligned with global goals, then there's probably a reason why. Either many good minds came up with the same ideas, or one is influencing the other. It's not an alarmist position to point out where alignment exists and to resist global intrusion into Utah. And that is my point. All this is addressed in chapter 19 of my book. Thank you, Christy, for sharing that. If you want to see how all of this targets the family as the core of civilization, read the rest of the book. It's called The Invincible Family. And if you'd like to know what I saw at the UN this year, just a couple of weeks ago, you can follow me at Invincible Family Substack. I'd love to have you on board. I write for you once a week. It's free. I'll close with the words of a 20th century Russian communist. He said, "Children, like soft wax, are very malleable. We must rescue children from the harmful influence of the family. From the earliest days of their little lives, they must find themselves under the beneficent influence of communist schools. To oblige the mother to give her child to the Soviet state, that is our task." The closer we get to falling in step with what global movements want, the closer we are to unhinging the family and facilitating domination by the state. We can and must resist this. God bless America and God bless Utah. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. She came to a friend of mine's house, and I heard much more than that, and I was so grateful to have her confirm things that I was already seeing. And so, as you can see, she's a powerhouse, as so many moms that I have met. We have wonderful men that work in this field as well, and there is just something about moms protecting the future of their children. So thank you, Kimberly, appreciate that, and the family. I want to tell a little quick story that connects this. I had a high-up librarian, I had a conversation with her, and I said, I'm a teacher, and I said, how is it that so many of these books came into the schools all at once? And she goes, oh, I'll tell you. I had an author show me the letter that they got from the publishing company. These authors were given a letter from the publishing companies that if they didn't, so imagine you're an author, you write a book, you send it into the publisher, and then they got their book rejected, and these are authors that had published before many times, and on the letter it said, we will not accept your book unless you include these 5 things, and it went on to list a sexual assault situation, same-sex relationship. And so if you're wondering, like I was, how so many of those books happened at once, the authors didn't all just go crazy. They spent a lot of time working on books, and then they were rejected, and so a lot of them added that stuff, and that was what helped set off the culture war that happened. And so when Kimberly explained some of this stuff to me, I went, oh, I saw a piece of that happen. And so you can see how top-down this stuff comes, and so that was a nice connection to make to kind of solve that mystery in my mind. For the next speaker, we have Hayden Perry is going to introduce Tina Cannon, and I'm going to do this for Tina before she even gets up here. So, Hayden Perry, one of our youth, and then just hand this to Tina when you're...
Tina Cannon was sworn in as Utah's 26th state auditor in January of 2025, bringing 3 decades of experience in accounting, business, and public service. Auditor Cannon rapidly established her office as a vigorous defender of taxpayer dollars, focusing on transparency and accountability in statewide government oversight. In her first 15 months of office, leading audits across Utah governmental agencies, Auditor Cannon has identified more than $500 million of fraud, waste, and abuse. From a nonprofit president's misuse of funds to the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, where money went to the excessive administrative fees rather than for patient care. Other audits have revealed millions in unreimbursed prescription rebates unclaimed by DHHS and waste over $50 million of Utah's Office of Recovery Services. Auditor Cannon is a strong advocate for conservative principles of accountability, limited government, and strong fiscal oversight, and works every day to ensure those values are upheld for the people of Utah.
Thank you, Christy, for moving that, because we all know that if I stand here, you won't know I'm here. So I always stand out here, so you know I'm here. I appreciate that introduction. It's getting a little weird to be introduced. I'm used to just being Tina and an accountant, but it has been the honor of a lifetime to work with an amazing team. When we talk about 500 million in identified fraud across the state, I don't do that alone. I have an amazing team, and I will go to war for my team, and I have gone to war with some of the legislators in this room, but we'll cover that on the last slide. Because that's why my office matters. That's my job, is to know. I know we'd like to stand up here and talk about how Utah is the best managed state, but unfortunately, my job is to know where the problems are. And that is literally my job, to know where the skeletons are and who buried them. So if you're thinking about bidding on lunch, I'll go into more detail on the lunch with me. But for today, we'll keep it just on the positive notes. So, why do I do what I do? Well, I have a clicker. There we go. So, I've been involved in Utah politics for about 20 years now. And the tagline on my email when I was in local government, I started with James Madison, because this is the reason why I stay involved. Because if angels were to govern men, no government would be necessary. The great difficulty lies in this. First, you must enable the government to control the governed, and the next place, oblige it to control itself. And there is where we the people come in. When our founders considered this is Federalist 51, they thought about it long and hard, and they knew some basic facts about government. They knew that power corrupts, and they knew that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they spent a lot of time and a lot of discussion over how do you stop that kind of natural trend of government and power. And they decided on a brilliant thought: separate the powers, separate them in equal, separate but equal, and put checks and balances into our government. And then they took it even farther, and they said, how do we get people to remember the concept? And Washington and Jefferson were very similar in this concept. And they decided that when they built the Capitol, that they would incorporate it into the architecture, because they knew if they did it in marble and stone, it would outlast them. And it would remind their posterity of the principles that they were trying to get them to remember. And so they based Washington, D.C. on the Greek and the Roman architecture to remind them of great republics throughout time. Those republican principles are part of the architecture for a reason. It was to remind us what we were trying to achieve in creating great republican ideals. Utah, we have been blessed with the same type of things. Here in Utah, our founders thought the same thing. When they designed the Utah State Capitol, they used that same structure. They chose the Greek and the Roman structure, the architecture of the building. Even the windows, the way they're placed, are to remind you that government is to be done in the sunlight. It is to be in the open and there for everyone to see, because they're doing government in your name. So we should be doing it in the open. And then Kettling did a brilliant thing in illustrating the separation of powers within the building, so that if you walk into the Utah Capitol, you will actually see not just one of the most beautiful buildings of state capitals across the nation, but you will see the separation of powers illustrated in the Utah Capitol. Even though the Supreme Court has not met in the Capitol, they still have their chambers within the Utah Capitol to remind us of that separation of powers, the separate but equal parts of government. So those of you who were part of, and most of them are in the room, thank you to the Eagle Forum. Thank you for Utah Citizens for for the Constitution, who helped us with this very concept as it became more and more of a discussion during the legislative session. What does it mean to have separate but equal branches, to respect the separate authority of the other branches? And the discussion over the auditor's independence became very, very real to me as it was directly under threat. And I want to use that as the illustration today for why independence mattered, why it matters that you have separate but equal branches of government. It's just like that, the compass. When we are focused on the very principles that were part of our founding, we stay focused on those very principles that keep us as a strong nation. But when we allow outside influence, whether that is money, whether that is power, to pull the compass off its course, a compass has to remain free from the magnet. When those magnetic powers, which whether they are power, whether they are money, whether they are global government, whatever that influence is that pulls those principles aside, you lose your true north. You lose your ability to remember why the principles are there in the first place. That independence is crucial for an auditor. For those of you who don't know, it is built into the standards that I am required to audit to. CPAs audit to governmental accounting standards when we audit for government, and you lose your CPA license if you do not audit to those governmental accounting standards. You lose your license. It is built into the structure of what we do every day. We live to that standard so that we can provide the assurance that is required by an auditor. Everything goes to that assurance that we are actually certifying reliability, honesty, and integrity in those financial statements. It is crucial. It is the key of what we do. That's what makes it a positive experience to go through an audit. People don't like to believe that. But an audit is a really positive experience, trust me on this one. Because it helps you remember how government is supposed to function. The most important part of what we do as auditors are the recommendations at the end of the audit, where we recommend the corrective action that needs to happen to bring the agency back into its true north, to really focus on what the agency is supposed to be doing instead of what it is. Those are the most important parts of what we do, and that assurance is what provides you, the taxpayer, that confidence that government is still operating in your behalf and for your good. Because what we should never forget, as we have oversight over taxpayer money, it's not government's money. It was never government's money, ever. It was always your money that they took from you. And they need to do only what they said they were going to do with it and nothing else. And that's why I would end it this way with my favorite quote of Abraham Lincoln. At the end of an audit, we have a line that we put in our reports every single time. We appreciate the professionalism of those who've worked with us, and we look forward to continuing that professional relationship. And that's true of those of you that I have disagreed with and those that I have had the pleasure of working with as you've helped us maintain that independence. If Norm Thurston's here, I don't know if I didn't see him, but I wanted to say that at a crucial moment in time, Norm went above and beyond. I should say Representative Thurston, sorry, Norm, I feel like we got to know each other pretty well. He listened, and he listened to why it mattered. I have to tell you, during the legislative session, it's rare, because so many things are happening so quickly that people don't typically take the time to stop, to listen, and to try to understand what the concern is. And in a moment of real need, Representative Thurston did that. He stopped, he listened, he repeated it back to me, and then he fought for that. And he stayed with it during a difficult time. And I greatly appreciate those moments of real clarity and real cooperation for very important principles that hold us all together as a state and as a nation. So I'll end with that. Thank you. With malice towards none, with charity towards all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work that we are in. Thank you. Jason, I'm just going to leave this here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tina Cannon. Audits are positive. I think that was one of the quotes of the night. Audits are positive. I had to think about it, and I was like, yeah. All right, well, Caleb Peebley is going to introduce Jason Chaffetz. I want to show you Jason's book. I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of spicy. But it is called They're Coming For You. And it has how deep state spies, NGOs, and woke corporations plan to push you out of the economy. The first 5 chapters all about NGOs and how that works. That was a really good read, and I was very excited. I think it went right along with the theme and a little bit of the smorgasbord that we have pieced together. I hope you can follow the thread of the Be the People, and we are going to have Caleb introduce Jason Chaffetz.
I am excited to give this introduction. I'd never heard of Jason before. So when I was sitting there thinking about him, I have no idea what's on this paper. I'll read it in a second. I looked him up, and the first picture that came up was an Instagram post of him standing next to Kalani Sitake holding a football. So I won over, I think he's going to be a great speaker, but now I'll learn a little bit about him. Congressman Jason Chaffetz is currently a contributor on Fox News networks, appearing regularly on Fox News and Fox Business channels, including frequent guest host appearances for Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Sunday Morning Futures, and Fox and Friends. He also hosts the Jason in the House podcast, distributed by Fox News Media. He was elected to the United States Congress in 2008 from the 3rd District of Utah and served until 2017. Chaffetz was selected by his peers to be chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee after only 3 terms. As chairman of that committee, he oversaw the 2nd largest committee in the House and spearheaded some of the nation's highest profile government investigations. Congressman Chaffetz also served on the House Judiciary, Budget, Natural Resources, and Homeland Security committees. In 2017, he joined Harvard University as a resident fellow at the Kennedy School Institute of Politics. In 2021, he joined the Government Accountability Institute as a distinguished fellow. At the Heritage Foundation, the congressman was a visiting fellow focused on the Oversight Project. With the new Oversight Project formed in 2025, he's now the chairman of the advisory board. And he also currently serves on the National Board of Advisories for the Freedom Festival based in Provo, Utah. Prior to his congressional service from 2003 to 2005, he was campaign manager and then chief of staff to Utah Governor John Huntsman. In 2006, Governor Huntsman appointed Chaffetz to serve on the Board of Trustees for Utah Valley State College, which then transitioned to Utah Valley University during his tenure. A former place kicker on the Brigham Young University football team, there's the Sitake picture, he set 5 new school records, earned his BA in communications in 1989, and then joined the local business community for 16 years. He and his wife Julie have been married since 1991 and have 3 married children and 6 grandchildren.
Oh, I love the candidness of saying I had no idea who this guy is, and so Thank you. I appreciate the candidness and the honesty. And hey, we're at the halfway point, so I'm going to round the halfway point, and we'll bring you home for the second half of the program. I promise we're getting there. Okay, I won't go too long, but a few notes. Some other people here that I really, really like that are just some of my favorites. Marla Oakes is here, the state treasurer. Where's Marlo's here at the back. I saw him earlier. There he is. Kimberly also mentioned Data Republican. Data Republican is actually a Utahn, and she's actually here. She's right there. Jenica does amazing work. And Tina, I love what you do, and I love how you do it, and I love your passion and tenacity for oversight, which is dear to my heart. But maybe not as dear to my heart as my wife, Julie. I'm very fortunate to be here with Julie. We've been married 35 years. 35 years. Her parents were married more than 70 years before they unfortunately passed away, but we hit 35 years, and it's just so blessed. We have such great kids. They're all here in Utah. They're all married. We have 6 grandkids. We just baptized our oldest grandchild a couple of weeks ago. We asked this little girl what she wanted, what would Mama and Papa could do, and she said, "Oh, you want to go to St. George?" So just the 3 of us went to St. George. It was one of the sweetest things that you could ever imagine. I'm very blessed with families, and you're probably very blessed in your family. I grew up with wonderful parents, my younger brother and I, parents who took care of us. I never worried about food. I never worried about where we were going to sleep. I didn't never worry if we were going to be safe. We just were. That's the way my young idyllic childhood was. I also recognize that not every childhood is like that. That a lot of tough things happen. They happen in this community. They happen across the nation. They happen across the world. And they're tough. But I had parents who were so good to me, and they took care of us, and parents who at one point said, "Now, Jason, listen, if you ever need anything, if you ever want anything, please just tell us, just come to us. Tell us if you want something, if you need something, just come to us, because we're going to teach you how to live without it." And that set me on a path and a trial, and a trajectory that just said, you know what? I should be self-reliant. It actually became sort of the core of why I believe I'm a conservative, because it made a lot of sense to me. The older I've gotten, the more I've come to realize that in today's world of instant gratification, of social media, of the craziness that our little grandchild who's 3 years old knows how to steal her mom's phone, type in 4 numbers, and then hit the FaceTime button where it pops up on my phone so she can talk to me. At 3 years old. It's crazy how the world has changed along the way. Very blessed to have been able to serve in the United States Congress. That's getting to be further and further in the rearview mirror. I recognize that. But what a blessing, and I can't thank you enough for sending me and allowing me to be in Congress for those terms that I was there. I left in the middle of my term. I had imbalance in my life. I was frustrated with our speaker, who informed me once the Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the presidency that no longer were we going to do oversight. What? President Trump was excited about it. His attorney general didn't like it, and we were going to be in for a fight to get the documents we wanted. But oh no. Speaker Paul Ryan and I had a few discussions. Paul said, I'm not supporting any more oversight. And I thought, you know what? Time to throw in the towel and change gears, because I miss and love my family. My home's in Utah. I could have stayed. My guess is I probably could have kept getting reelected. But you got to get to that point in your life where you find balance, because we're in a fight. We're in a fight, and it's good versus evil. When I first went to Congress, I really, honestly, and naively believed that Republicans, Democrats, we all believed in what the finish line should look like. We just had different ways of getting there. When I left Congress some 8.5 years later, I thought, no, that's not the case. There's a subversive group out there. There's people who don't love our country. They're evil, and it is good versus evil. And it is a fight. It's a fight that we have to fight here locally, on our state level, our national level, and certainly internationally. They want death and destruction to the United States of America. Now, if you don't like America and you want to take her over, how do you do that? Well, it's not going to be the Chinese or the Russians coming over the mountain with guns. I don't know, how many guns do we have in Utah County, right? That's probably not going to be a good strategy. What they're going to try to do is tear us apart from within. They're going to get us to fight each other, to divide us, to be deceptive in how they do things, and being able to tell you that you're wrong, you're evil, you're mean, you don't care, because you believe in basic principles that we as a people, certainly sitting in this room, and that we as a nation and as a state and as a community, as a city, as a county, that we hold dear to our heart. We love our families. We love the flag. We love the United States of America. We love freedom. We love liberty. We believe in justice. We believe in all of these things. But there's another part of the world that doesn't believe in those things. And I think one of the biggest challenges is, how do we deal with that? This is Lincoln Day. One of my favorite Abraham Lincoln quotes is, "You don't make a weak man strong by making a strong man weak." Think about that for a second. You don't make a weak man strong by making a strong man weak. Abraham Lincoln was 100% right. But if you listen to today's Democratic Party, that's exactly what they want to do. They want to tear you down. They believe in equity. Oh, that sounds good, equity. They believe in equality, Equality Utah, right? We all want to be equal. Well, if we look at our founding documents and who we are as a people, we do have equality. We do have equity. We earn it. We believe in it. We fight for it. We all start out with the same opportunity to be able to accomplish what we want to be able to accomplish. We all have to overcome challenges. You know, I look at my own family. Again, I'm telling you about my idyllic household until I was just after 10 years old, turning the corner into my teenage years. And then life starts to come at you a little faster and a little bit more clear. In my own family, we had this time where my parents came to breakfast. Usually my breakfasts were just not eventful. My dad each morning would wiggle my toes. That was sign for me to get up, get ready for school, and then me and my brother would come in and have some breakfast. Well, this one particular day, my parents came in and they said they were dressed up. My dad was wearing a tie. My dad never wore a tie, certainly at breakfast, and said, "We hate to tell you this, but we're going to get divorced." And as a young kid, I did not understand this. I was devastated. I had no idea. I hadn't seen it coming. My parents kept telling me that they loved me, that they cared for me, that it had nothing to do with me, but my young mind, my young perfect household was being shattered and broken apart, and I didn't understand it. It was hard, it was difficult, it was tough. Years later, my mom would sit me down and explain that she had breast cancer in her 30s. And I didn't know what that is. I just knew that cancer was bad. But I had no idea the journey that she would go on when she passed away that's younger than I am today. I still have those moments where sometimes something dramatic, good or bad, would happen in our life. And I think for just that, that fraction of a second, I need to call my mom. And yet she passed away in 1995. It's hard to believe. That's more than 30 years ago. So it is really, really difficult for me to, deal with that as a young man. Later, my dad would come and tell us that he had cancer. I only wish that they had the sort of diagnostics and treatment that we do today, because I think both of them would have been able to survive it much longer than they did. When I was parents got divorced, we were in Arizona. Dad moves up to Colorado, and we go with my dad. And we have this beautiful home outside Winter Park, Colorado, okay? It's like living in Deer Valley, right? Got this beautiful view of the mountains, and it's just spectacular. Had my own room, I had my own bathroom, I had this perfect picture of these mountains and these Christmas trees, that lit up with snow. And then one day, my brother had the same. Then one day, my dad sat us down and said, "Sorry, kids, but I have to file for bankruptcy." I'm like, what? What does that mean? So we had to get out of that house, and we had to move into a one-bedroom apartment, which meant Alex and I slept on air mattresses in the front room. We'd blow them up, go to bed, got done in the morning, we'd let all the air out, fold them up. I had to take on a couple jobs. It was, I was getting to be in my late teens. I'm getting to be a senior in high school. And I'd take a good part of those checks and I'd give them to my dad, just so we had enough for rent and food and everything else. That is not what I had envisioned in my life. But it's interesting because I found that the most difficult parts of my life were also the parts that made me and my character. They made me stronger and better and more loving and more caring over the course of time. The reason I share that with you is that every single person in this room, you have your own story. My story is not unique. It may be unique in the combination of things, but every person in this room has that same story. It can be addiction, it can be bankruptcy, it could be financial problems, it can be a job problem, even a spousal issue. It could be kids doing stupid stuff. It could be an accident. Every one of us has these challenges. I think our opportunity as Republicans, as a people and as a country, is to show that compassion and share why we believe what we believe. That's who we are as Republicans. I'm tired of having the Democrats be the ones who claim the territory that say, we care more because we spend more. That is an absurd assertion. When you spend money as a government, you're pulling money from somebody's wallet and you're giving it to somebody else. That's the decision that people in these positions are making. And so, somehow, some way, we as Republicans cower down and we're embarrassed sometimes and make apologies for being the actual compassionate ones. Our challenge is to point out to the Democrats how absurd and anti-family, anti-country their positions are. As Republicans, we need to do Republican things and not be bashful about it, and explain why we believe what we believe at every level of government. We're in a fight to save and promote and support law enforcement in this country. Does it feel like we're winning that fight right now? We are, because we believe that if you come into this country illegally, it is illegal to be here illegally. I love the passion that Mike Lee is putting into the fight, okay? My personal viewpoint, you may disagree with this, folks, But I hate mail-in ballots. Everybody should vote. Same time, same place, same information, in person, with voter ID. Why do we have to apologize about this and stand down on this? This is, every single country on the face of the planet does this, except us. Because, oh, it's going to exclude some people from, no, it's not. No, it's not. We got to support law enforcement. Democrats are trying to tear it apart. You have slick people like Gavin Newsom and Zohran Mamdani and AOC and Bernie Sanders. This is who we're up against. We got to be able to kick their butts, like no problem, by making the argument to the American people on why we believe what we believe. Those are the types of things that we have to do. But I will tell you that the fight that we're in is going to be about how we do it neighborhood by neighborhood. Yeah, we're going to do stuff socially online. I make a living going out and, 4 or 5 segments at a time, making the case and putting out my tweets and Facebook posts and all that. It's all great, okay? Everybody do it. It's good. But it's going to be won in the neighborhoods, and even right here in Utah County. Utah County, for the first time, Democrats fielded a candidate in each of these legislative races. That's what Grant Pace was telling me here. Democrats never done that before. They're feeling a little emboldened, right? We can't let down our guard. Sometimes we get, I think, a little too fat, a little too happy, saying, oh, we're Republicans, we're in Utah. Yeah, Bill Clinton came in third, twice. But we have a fight that we have to do, and we got to stand on principle, and we got to be able to share that principle, and we got to share that, because according to the Democrats, they want to tear that all down. Judges don't make decisions. It's supposed to be our state legislature. We're a representative government. And I appreciate the passion that Rob Axum and the others have poured into this. This fight is not over. There's a long, long ways to go on this. And it is absolutely accurate. It was said before multiple times. There are millions and millions and millions of dollars that are flowing in here through subversion, as Jenica pointed out, that are from outside forces trying to say, oh, these Mormon women. No, this is like 12 people who are propped up that aren't nearly it's a facade in what they're trying to do. And they're trying to tear us down with our religion. They're trying to tear us down in the schools. They're trying to tear us down through social media. If you have a question about it, go talk to Joel Wright. He can tell you a whole lot about this and how they're trying to do it. I have waxed on a bit, but I want to highlight one more thing before I stand down, and I appreciate you having me here. And if you are serving our state, our community, certainly our cities, our county, our state, or in the federal government, and you are a first responder, a National Guardsman, or in the United States military, please stand for a moment. Got a good sheriff there. Thank you. Thank you for your service. These are the people who, when bad things are happening, answer the call. We have hundreds of thousands of men and women who serve right now, and they're overseas. They're away from their families. They are answering the call when 911 comes in. They're running to an accident or a shooting or domestic violence. Or they're having to deal with a domestic dispute. Certainly having to deal with people who are self-medicated. People who are challenged with mental health issues, trying to do the right thing. And I will tell you as a sidebar, one of the biggest issues I think for the 2028 in our future as a party and as a people is how are we going to deal with artificial intelligence? What our younger generation, my grandkids, your kids are going to have to deal with, deep fakes, simulated voices that sound just like your family members, displacing you in jobs. This is a big challenge ahead of us. But for the moment, let us be the party, let us be the people, and certainly in this county, let us be the ones that support and love our law enforcement, our first responders, those nurses who have to take incoming, those paramedics that show up and have seconds to save lives, the sheriff and deputies who are responding at a moment's notice to who knows what, our National Guardsmen who work full-time jobs and go out on the weekend and they help us, and then natural disasters and other things happen. We are the party that cares for these people, and we got to support them every single possible way. We're in a funding fight. That's why none of our delegations here. It's not just the TSA. We've never had so much love and support for the TSA as we have right now, that's for sure. They're like on the emotional high of the TSA here for everybody loving what they're doing, but they do protect us. We also have the United States Secret Service, about 8,500 people haven't had a check. We also have 40,000 members of the United States Coast Guard. We have what's called CISA, cyber infrastructure personnel, haven't gotten paid. They got a lot of people out there, FEMA, whatnot. Whenever we see these people, I just hope we take the moment to thank them for serving their country, for serving our communities, and be proud of the fact when we are going into our 250th anniversary. Because you read Frederick Bastier's The Law, you start to realize really quickly, really illuminates the idea that there are certain things that have to happen in this country in order for us to maintain our freedoms of liberty and of justice and all of the things that we hold cherished and we cherish dear to our heart. I'm very blessed to be an American, very blessed to live in this state and in this community. I went out to the BYU spring football. I came here because I was invited to be a place kicker once upon a time. Today I went out with Lee Johnson and Chad Lewis and Ty Mattingly, and I got to see Kalane, and it's just really amazing how fun it was to be just part of this community and have a winning program that actually stands for something more than just winning games. People of good character. And I've been droning on, but I just want to tell you, I'm a proud American. We're a proud party. And I want you to share from your heart why you believe what you believe, and share that with everybody we come into contact with. Because we are in a fight for our lives. And a lot of subversion is coming at us, and we have to prevail. So may God bless you. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you. That was very kind of you. I hope I didn't get too long.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Jason Chaffetz. I will be quick. I have a couple of announcements. Because my team somehow does not like sleep, we have a Meet the Candidates tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning at Mountain View High School. We're very excited to have a lot of the candidates with us tonight. If you're a candidate, will you stand up? If you're a candidate in one of our current races, please stand up. So if you are a delegate, we will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at Mountain View in the cafeteria area. And then after that, at about noon, we will walk down to the auditorium for our County Commission Seat A debate. And so we will be there tomorrow. I want to tell you, if you have a piece of tape on one of the chairs, you can take the flowers home. If you don't, just rock, paper, scissors someone. I am going to leave these up on the stage so that you don't drip on the way, and you can take those. And then I just wanted to leave you with this quote. I think we have been fed well tonight, and we have been fed well tonight. And it is by John Adams, it is posterity, you will never know how much it costs the present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it. If you do not, I shall repent in heaven that I ever took half the pains to preserve it. We're in the middle of a story, and it's time to be the people.